So we're starting this new series called Explore God, and so I want to put everything out on the table all at once here. And I believe that this is true of all of us, every single one of us in this room, is that we've all wondered about God and God's existence. We've all asked the question, God, do you exist? Are you really out there? Now, some of us may have asked that question out loud to other people. Some of us have asked that question inwardly, just to ourselves. Some of us ask that question on almost a daily basis. God, are you there? And some of us, maybe not so much, maybe here, there, once in a blue moon, but I think that all of us have asked that question. Now, you know I'm a pastor, so you know where I line up on that question. But I've asked that question. I've re-asked that question multiple times. God, are you real? Do you exist? And in that journey, there's a couple of things that have given me great peace to be able to process through that and to ask those questions. And that is, first of all, that if God is all-knowing and he's all-powerful, then he's secure. He's not insecure, okay? God doesn't go, oh no, Tyler has questions, I hope they're not too hard. And I don't think God, I think being secure, I don't think he would ask the question or say, oh no, if Tyler doesn't believe in me, maybe I don't exist. He's a secure God, okay? And second of all, if he is all-knowing, then he knows that I have questions. In fact, if the Hebrew and Christian scriptures are correct, and we'll talk more about that next week, that's going to be a lot of fun, then what we see is a God who actually really does invite questions. He loves it when we are inquisitive. He wants us to seek him out. And we see that all throughout Scripture. You go 3,000 years ago to the second king of Israel, a guy named David of Bethlehem. He wasn't just a politician. He was a poet, a philosopher, a prophet. And from his own life experience of exploring God, this is what he wrote. He said this, he said, "Those who know your name trust in you, for you, O Lord, do not abandon those who search for you." You don't abandon those who are seeking you out, who are asking the questions, who really want to know you and know whether you're out there and all of those things. Then you fast forward 1,000 years after this King David, and we find another Roman, or Jewish thinker, I should say, who was an intellect. He studied under a man named Gamaliel. Most Jews, whether they're Christian or not, would say Gamaliel is one of the greatest rabbis in Jewish history. So this guy studied underneath him. He was also very well acquainted with the Greek poets and philosophers. And his name was Paul of Tarsus, which is a town in modern-day Turkey. Well, this Paul became a Christian later on. And then later on, he was in Athens, and he's speaking to a bunch of Greek philosophers and thinkers there, and he says this, he says, his purpose was for the nations to seek after God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him, though he's not far from any one of us. In other words, what this Paul was saying was that God wants us to seek after him, and he's really not that far from any of us, okay? So what we see is, and my hope is that you do ask these questions. You need to ask these questions. In fact, I would say that the most important question you could ever ask in your whole lifetime is about God and God's existence. Because how you answer that question profoundly and utterly impacts the way that you live your life, the way that you think about your relationships, the way that you think about meaning and purpose, and what happens to you and loved ones when you die. It's huge. It's more important than anything. It's more important than what should I do, for a vocation? Who should I marry? Where should I live? Those are very sub questions, in my opinion, when it comes to God, are you there? Who are you? I want to know you. It's very profound. And so we're going to kind of go on this journey over the next 4 weeks as we explore God together. When I was back in middle school, I had a science teacher that would show these segments that I absolutely loved. Couldn't wait until he would show them. These segments were called The Cosmos by Carl Sagan. How many of you guys remember old Carl Sagan? Billions and billions and billions, right? Carl Sagan was a deep thinker, asked a lot of questions. He had a BS, an MS, and a PhD from Chicago, University of Chicago. He was a lecturer at Harvard and Cornell, and he was a pop icon in my generation. He made astronomy very accessible to a lot of us regular old Joes. And one of the things I appreciated about Carl Sagan was his understanding or thinking about God. Some people thought that Carl Sagan was an atheist. He wasn't an atheist, he was an agnostic. What's the difference between the two? An atheist comes from two Greek words, theos, which means means non, and theos means God, okay? So it means non-God. Agnostic comes from another two Greek words, right? What does that mean? Non. And gnostic, which comes from the Greek word gnosis, comes from knowledge, non-knowledge, okay? And so what he said when it came to God is this. He said, an atheist is someone who is certain that God does not exist. Someone who has compelling evidence against the existence of God. I know of no such compelling evidence. In other words, what he was saying is that in order to be an intellectual atheist, you have to know everything to know that there is no God. Okay? That it may be something that you believe, but it's not necessarily something that there has been overwhelming, compelling evidence to say that there is no God. Now, Carl Sagan did not believe in a higher power in the way that we think of a higher power or a God. He did believe in higher beings. He believed that there were higher beings on planets across the universe. He believed in what was called the Drake equation. The Drake equation basically said, based on the numerous galaxies that we have, numerous solar systems we have, the billions and billions of stars that we have and planets that revolve around that, the odds must be greatly in favor of having higher beings, extraterrestrial beings on a planet somewhere in a solar system just like ours. And so Carl Sagan spent a lot of his energy and time wanting to explore the cosmos in hopes of connecting with a higher being somewhere out there. Now, Carl Sagan kind of taught that, if we could just send a very simple message to space or receive a simple message from space, even as simple as prime numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on and so forth. If we receive just some simple communication from space of just prime numbers, then we would know that there is intelligent life out there. In fact, Carl Sagan wrote a book back in the 80s that became a movie back in the 90s called Contact. It's a really interesting movie. And in this movie, there is this scientist who gets basically funding in order to listen into the cosmos to hopefully hear that one little message. Beep, 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 beep. Then we would know that there's intelligent life out there. After I saw the movie Contact, I got to say that it was very interesting, but something inside me just kept wondering, but what about all the intelligence around us? You and I are surrounded by immense intelligence everywhere. If all we need is one simple little beep, 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 beep from space to know that there's intelligent life, what about the intelligence that we see when we walk outside the door everywhere we go? A while back, I came across this very interesting man. His name was James Tour. James Tour is an incredibly unique individual. R&D magazine recently named him the top scientist in the world. He has been named one of the top 50 influential minds in the world. There's 7 billion people. That's pretty high praise to be one of the top 50 minds in the world. James Tour has written over 650 research papers. He holds 120 patents, and he started seven companies. And he said this. Well, let me back up and say this. That his area of expertise, he is the foremost in the world when it comes to nanoscience and nanotechnology. What is nano? Nano is dealing with the very smallest of matter and particles. So there isn't anybody in the world that understands the smallest things that we have in the universe than this James Tour. And James Tour said this: I build molecules for a living. I can't begin to tell you how difficult that job is. I stand in awe of God because of what he has done through his creation. My faith has been increased through my research. Only a rookie who knows nothing about science would say science takes away from faith. If you really study science, it will bring you closer to God. Now, he's not trying to be pedantic there about being a rookie, but what he's saying is, if scientists would just open their minds just a little bit and understand the appreciation of the intelligence and the complexity of this world, there must be something out there, someone out there who knows what he's doing, more so than just hoping that maybe we might hear a beep, 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 from the outer edges of the universe to know that there is intelligent being. And then there's another individual, a guy named Francis Collins. Francis Collins was made famous by being the head of the Human Genome Project. It was a project that a bunch of scientists went and mapped out our whole human body and human genome. And Francis Collins was an atheist. He got his PhD from Yale. He got an MD from North Carolina. But through his medical work and being by bed patients, he had a patient one time just kind of challenge him. And this is what Francis Collins said. He said, I was an atheist, finding no reason to postulate the existence of any truths outside of mathematics, physics, and chemistry. But then I went to medical school and encountered life and death issues at the bedsides of my patients. Challenged by one of those patients who asked, what do you believe, doctor? I began searching for answers. And Francis Collins, through his exploring of God, is a very devout follower of Jesus Christ. But Francis Collins, in mapping the human genome, he made the comment that our bodies are incredibly intelligent. You walk around in an amazingly smart machine called the human body. Each in your body, each cell contains, to kind of translate into computer talk, each of your cell contains 1.5 gigabytes of information. That's one cell. You have 40 trillion cells in your body, okay? So let me kind of translate what that means. For those of you who have a desktop computer, you may have a terabyte, maybe 2 terabytes of memory in your computer there. Well, your body has 600 million terabytes of information inside of you. That's how smart your body is. Beep, 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 beep. Okay? And then I came across another individual that I just adore and love. And he's one of the greatest physicists of our generation, and truly, truly brilliant man. His name is Sir John Polkinghorne. Polkinghorne got his bachelor's in mathematics from Cambridge, and he held the distinction of Wrangler, which is given to the top student in mathematics. He went on to get a master's degree, and then from Cambridge, and he also went on to get 2 doctorates from Cambridge. One in quantum field theory, the other doctorate in theoretical elementary particle physics. He studied, or he did work under a guy named Paul Dirac. Those of you who know your physics know that Dirac is right up there with Einstein. He went on to, Polkinghorne went on to teach at Cambridge. 2 of his doctoral students are Nobel Prize winners in the areas of physics. He has a Sir in front of him because Great Britain has honored him for his amazing, incredible work that he's done in science and in physics. Incredibly brilliant man. And through his exploration of God, Polkinghorne became a priest. Now, you may wonder, why are you belaboring all of these guys' backgrounds? Because I want to help you guys in your journey exploring God. Because one of the things I think keeps people from really exploring God is that there is a myth out there. And ironically, it's a myth in our academic institutions that if you explore God or have faith in God or follow God, then you must be an intellectual lightweight. You must be a fool, you must be ignorant, because real people of intellect do not believe in a God. And I've heard from some of you guys who taking courses and, whether that's in high school or in college, tell me of these things. But I really seriously doubt that you have any professors who have 2 PhDs from Cambridge and have a sir in front of them. I don't want to belittle things, but I want to encourage you that, you can stretch your mind and challenge the question of God and who he is, and explore those things, and be intellectually and reasonably sound individuals as these guys are. Well, Polkinghorne, being a physicist, looked into the world, and he just said, this world is amazing. The way that we have this incubation of life that we have here is incredible. All the things that have to be in order for us to exist is astronomical. The size of our planet, the distance from our sun, the size of our sun, the speed around which we go around that sun, the perfect tilt of our axis, the perfect speed by which we go around. There's so many things that are just so fine-tuned for our existence to happen that Sir John Polkinghorne said this: when you realize that the laws of nature must be incredibly finely tuned to produce the universe we see, that conspires to plant the idea that the universe did not just happen, but that there must be a purpose behind that. Polkinghorne went on to write books like Quantum Physics and Theology, Quarks, Chaos, and Christianity for any of you guys, any of you scientists who would love to explore more of it. But here's the thing, and I think this is very important too. These guys are highly trained scientists. And yes, when they look at the world at the molecular level or the astronomical level, and they see the beauty and the intelligence behind it, it does bring within them this notion or feeling that there must be something more to this than just all of this being random. All of them would say, too, that science does not help them in a lot of areas of life. Science does not answer the big question of human experience. And what is the human experience? And why do we humans experience the things that we experience? Science, at its level, basically tells us what is. Throw a ball, it drops. Get a ball, it drops. It does not give me meaning. It does not tell me about what is moral. It does not tell me why I exist, why I'm here. It just says that the ball drops. Okay. And to say that that's all there is, then these guys would basically say, then that's not enough. It wasn't enough for them, because none of those things answered the biggest, deepest questions that they had about being human. Another man who was an atheist, it's one of my favorite lecturers. Brilliant man. He got a PhD in Oxford in molecular biophysics. There's a guy named Alistair McGrath. Alistair McGrath was an atheist, and he was challenged as well about just some of his thinking about where science can take you and where science can't take you. and exploring that idea and exploring that there must be something more than just laws of nature to explain our lives and who we are and what we're about, he found his way to Jesus Christ. And Alistair McGrath went on to get a doctorate in divinity from Oxford, and he went on to get another doctorate, his third doctorate, and doctorate of letters in his research in science and religion. And this is what Alistair McGrath said. He said, I was discovering that Christianity was far more intellectually robust than I ever imagined. What McGrath was saying there was like for many of us, we have kind of like a understanding of Christianity that's on a level of almost like a first grade mathematician. It's like saying 1 + 1 is 2, therefore I know math. Okay? Jesus Christ, Christianity says that Jesus Christ died and rose from the dead, therefore I know all things about Christianity. Okay? But the more he began to explore the teachings of Christ, he went on, one of his doctor of divinity was in historical theology, which was also his study of the history of the ancient world in the 1st and 2nd century of Christianity. He began to understand that Christianity may be a lot more intellectually robust than he ever imagined. In fact, he found that it was. And then he said, I had some major rethinking to do. And by the end of November 1971, my decision was made. I turned my back on one faith, atheism, his faith that there is no God. 2, to embrace the faith of another, which is faith in Jesus Christ. Okay? Now, one of the things, again, like I said, is that these men, as great scientists as they are and lovers of the complexity of science, they all understood, each one of them, that there was something inside of them that didn't just go, oh, look, oh, here we go, look at this little thing. It's a common carbon-based organism. It has liquid, and it has some tissue, and it has atoms and all of that. And, we would call that a baby. And that if that baby died, then, oh well. There's no emotion behind that because we know as highly evolved intellectual individuals, it is nothing more than a carbon-based, organism that has tissue and liquid and all of that. It's utterly meaningless. And all these men said, it can't be that way. There's something inside the human experience that there's something more. There's something inside the human experience that desires a God. C.S. Lewis said, I'm paraphrasing it here, but C.S. Lewis said that just as a baby has this desire within it called hunger, there's a thing called food. As man has this desire for this thing called sex, there is a thing called sex. And as humans have this desire for a God, he said, there must be God implanted within us. And C.S. Lewis would even challenge and basically say that even within the atheist who clamors so much that there is no God, tells a different story that there must be some kind of God inside of them that they will not yield to. Going back 3,000 years ago, to the philosopher, thinker, politician, prophet David said these words, and I bet these words probably resonate to some level to us. He said, the heavens proclaim the glory of God. You can imagine if you've ever been out to Colorado, out in a place where there's no light pollution, you just look up and you just go, whoa, whoa. The skies displays craftsmanship. Day after day, they continue to speak. Night after night, they make him known. They speak without a sound or word. Their voice is never heard. Yet, their message has gone throughout the earth, and their words to all the world. One of the things, too, that all of these men, as they explored God and found their way to Jesus Christ, They found something reasonable and compelling within them. The beauty of the message of Jesus Christ. In John, these are the words written by a man who was a student of Jesus, who lived with Jesus for 3 years. And this comes from his writing. We call it John. John chapter 1, verse 14. John wrote this. He said, so the Word, what is the Word? The Word in the ancient world, logos, means truth. It's the embodiment of everything that is true and intellectual. And I love this because, so the Word became human. The Word was not just some kind of Spock with no emotions, no feeling, no nothing. It is just information. The beauty behind the fact that truth is embodied in an individual, in a person, in a relationship, that makes it even more worthwhile and beautiful. It's not something that's just out there, inaccessible. It is relatable. It is very, very human. So the Word became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness. I love this because this Word came into our world and he wrecked everything. Because he turns even science in a lot of ways upside down when he says things like, love your enemy, sacrifice your life. Where's the preservation in that? Where's the preservation of species if I'm to lay down my life for an enemy? Seems very counterintuitive, but yet it seems incredibly brilliant and beautiful at the same time. And John, who lived with Jesus for 3 years, says this, and me and my friends with me, we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son. And this Word who became man, who was full of love and faithfulness, gave up his life willingly to die on the cross for you and I. There's something within the human experience that leaps for joy that somebody would lay down their life for us for that kind of love. Can't put a mathematical equation to it, but there's something deep within us that goes, wow, it's amazing. And that he rose from the dead so that my life has meaning and purpose that goes beyond just breathing in oxygen, exhaling carbon for a little while, and then going back to dust, and that's it. That there's also something within us that yearns, something that lasts for eternity. And this one, the Word, who embodies all truth, came, died, and rose from the dead so we can have life eternally. I only have 30 minutes to talk about these things. There's so much more. So I encourage you to explore and continue to explore these things. And you want to talk more about it, you can talk more about it. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to have some space. Some space for you. Maybe you're not convinced about Jesus Christ. That's okay. Just keep, we're a safe place just to explore wherever you're at. Encourage you, though, to take this time just where you're at and just either stay in your seat. But I would encourage you just to talk to God and just say, God, are you out there? Show yourself to me. I want to know you. For those of you who have walked this journey, and you have walked this journey right straight to the cross of Jesus Christ, I encourage you to come and take communion and remember what our God, who is truth, has come and done for you and I. Didn't leave us alone just to try to figure all this out on our own, but came to become one of us and to sacrifice and give his life for us. So I encourage you to come and partake of the juice, which symbolizes his blood, which is shed for you, and the body, which is symbolized by the bread, which is given for you. We'll also have people to come and pray for you if you want prayer over here and over on that side. Even if you're coming just as a seeker and say, I just really want to know this guy, they would love to pray with you and over you. Let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you that you have made us just unique and different. That you have given us the ability to be able to look at your creation and go, wow, that's amazing. The animals don't get to do that. The planet doesn't get to do that. Plants don't get to do that. But we get to do that. We get to go to the beach and look out and see a sunrise on one coast and then drive over to see a sunset on the other coast and just go, wow, wow. So, Father, we just thank you that you've implanted within us this desire to know you and to know everything about you. And so as we kind of go on this journey and continue to go on this journey, we ask that you would just reveal yourself more and more to us in a way that connects our hearts deeply to you, that gives us the confidence of knowing that not only are you there, but you love us deeply. It's in your Son's name I pray. Amen.